What's up, guys? Yeah, this isn't Tessa. And if you guys are familiar with the front end of a bike, that says RR right there. I am on Brian S1K's BMW S1000RR. And boy, is this fucking bike crazy. We're gonna do a review on it, guys. So right out of the box, the first thing I'm gonna say is, holy shit, is this thing fucking comfortable. Oh my god, it is so comfortable. It's got an aggressive seat position, but you've got enough room on the tank to actually get a good grip of it. You don't feel like you're like super hunched over like on the R1. And in comparison between the R1 and the ZX6R that I reviewed, it almost has like the best of both worlds. Like the ZX6R sat kind of high, but it was a decent seating position. I almost have a full leg support of both sides, like gripping the side of the tank. The foot controls feel really solid through the boots. And it's just, yeah, oh, it feels so good. I don't like, there's so much support up front where where the back end of the tank is, that you don't feel like you have to think about choosing to put all your pressure on your legs or on your arms. Like, it's actually like evenly balanced. It feels really good. Like any 1000, it does feel kind of fat and chubby. Like up front, like it just, I don't know. They always remind me of like a really like cartoony, like beefed up bull. You know how like the shoulders are really fucking wide and then it kind of tapers off to the rear. So handlebar grip and position feels really good. It's really solid. The bike doesn't want to dig. Like you can feel it like wanting to kind of get into the corners as you move the front end of the bike around. But it doesn't feel like it wants to drop like the ZX6R did. The overall front end of this bike I've always had a really weird vibe with. It's got the what Brian calls the alien eyes. It's got one really big one and one really small one, and each one pertains to low beams or high beams. So both on is normally high, the low beam and the high beam on at the same time. But the normal running lights is just the circle by itself. And I've always thought that the bike kind of, like the front end of the bike always looked like one of the elites from Halo 1, the silver elites that had the big ass headdress. And I've always thought that was really, really cool. The bike has a shitload of controls that come with it because, I mean, it's BMW. What do you expect? It's got stock on Brian's bike. It came with heated hand grips, which I always thought was freaking crazy. This bike in particular has the full titanium aero exhaust setup on it, and holy shit does it fucking scream. It is so loud. It sounds really good, and the times that I've ridden with Brian, and he's actually like blared past me, the bike sounds incredible. What the fuck is going on here? How did you manage this? Both that don't have an oh yeah, it is in race mode. It says it. I've noticed that the bike has a very, very smooth power delivery. One of my biggest qualms on the R1 is that it had a traction control system, and I totally agree with what Downshift says. It's very, very invasive. So when you actually get on the throttle, it kind of wants to chop out the throttle. It doesn't really want to deliver a smooth power band. On a sport bike that's designed for speed, I would want a smooth power band. This bike does come stock with a quick shifter, and because I've never actually had to use one before, it feels weird to me. I'm not really used to how it's working. When I'm actually doing any kind of shifting with the actual clutch, which is what I'm used to, it kind of wants to click, and it feels really strange. And it's probably something up with how the system works in unison with a clutch. Brian doesn't have any fucking mirrors on this thing, so I have to keep turning backwards. One thing that I have noticed with riding with Brian is the frame, he said, gets really fucking hot sometimes. To the point where you could probably fry an egg on it, which is bad. You don't want to fry any eggs on your motorcycle. For me, that's something that I don't want. I wouldn't... Ah, fuck, I guess I probably could have gone. Holy shit, dude. Fucking cut that close. One thing that I was very intrigued by with BMW in this bike is that the oil change and maintenance on this bike is at every 6,000 miles instead of every 3. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Of all the bikes that I've ever ridden, everyone's had to do them at 3,000 miles, or maybe around 5,000 miles. But BMW factory actually says to do it at 6,000, which I thought was nuts. I'm not really sure how much I like the blinker switch. It's kind of stiff. It doesn't give as far left or right. So I don't really feel like I'm activating it properly whenever I'm actually hitting the switch. God, this bike is amazing. This bike has a shitload of aftermarket parts available for it. And one thing that's been really interesting seeing this bike change as it has with Brian, I've seen, you know, if you're a fan of sport bikes, you always see the people who have the crazy setups that, you know, the top of the line, they have all the parts, all the gear, everything for their specific bike. But one thing that I think is really interesting with this particular bike is that you don't really see that many... That's really weird. You don't really see that many of the same S1K, and I think that's really cool because there's so many, and you know, it plays to a different market, a different kind of income level, because it's a very expensive motorcycle. I think Brian said that he walked out the door with his, and I think this is a 2012 or 2013. He walked out the door at $18,000, and that is a very steep price. But it really does. I can feel it. I can feel the worth of the bike. But going back to not seeing two of the same S1Ks, there's a lot of different components. I've seen full carbon. I've seen the kind of like the street edition of full carbon, where it's just bits and pieces of carbon fiber that they've got, like full belly pans and front ends and everything. It really is. It's very cool. I like that. You know, there are certain bikes that have a certain upgrade path that almost everyone follows. With the S1K, it's pretty interesting to see all the different builds that people come out with. So my overall thoughts on this bike is, it is a solid platform. It really is it's surprisingly comfortable. It's much more comfortable than I expected it to be. If you're in the price range for this bike, if you're in the market for this, I'm not going to say high of a range, because there are obviously bikes that are higher than it. But if you're in the market for an S1K, definitely go take one out for a test ride. It really will surprise you. For everybody looking at the S1K or who owns an S1K, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I'm sorry this review isn't as thorough as what the R1 was, but I had a limited time for this bike. So you guys take it easy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.